Okay, next up is a name I'm much more comfortable in pronunciating. Bill Mattis, who works with the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. The mic is yours, Bill.
Well, hello. My talk today is the role of Adikameg, that's the Ojibwa name for lake whitefish, in the reserve fishing rights. Okay. According to the teachings of the Anishinaabe people, it was a sacred mage's shell that first guided the people to the rich regions of the Great Lakes. The mage's shell was last seen near Madeline Island, which was one of the settling points for tribal people migrating from the eastern shores of the continent. Anishinaabe, also known as Chippewa or Ojibwa, were semi-nomadic people living in small bands that followed seasonal paths to traditional hunting, fishing, gathering grounds, where they harvested deer, game, fish, maple sugar, berries, and wild rice. Lake Superior, or Gitchigumi, big water, and the surrounding land were bountiful sources of food. Lake Superior's waters yielded Chinamikush, lake trout, Adikameg, whitefish, and the May, lake sturgeon. Fish and fishing have long been a part of Anishinaabe culture. Traditionally, camps were set up in the summer next to lakes and major rivers so that fish, a major food source, could be caught, eaten, and dried for later use. Most of the major Anishinaabe communities seen today were originally established next to lakes or rivers to be near food supplies that included fish. This can be seen in the location of the 11 Ojibwa tribes, which comprise the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, or GLFWC. The Commission is an intertribal natural resource management organization which assists its member tribes in the regulation of treaty resources in off-reservation areas. GLFWC member bands who fish commercially in Lake Superior and have reservations which border the lake include the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa and the Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa in Wisconsin, and the Keweenaw Indian Community and the Bay Mills Indian Community in Michigan. Initially, tribal fishermen harvested fish using large birch bark canoes and gill nets constructed from the twisted and knotted strands of willow bark. They also speared through the ice and fished with hand-carved decoys. As Europeans pushed into the region, the Anishinaabe people used fish to trade with French and English outposts. Fish soon became one of the mainstays in the diets of the early fur traders. And in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Lake Superior's fishery faced a growing number of non-Indian commercial fishermen who used new technology to efficiently take fish from Lake Superior in large numbers. With fishing such an important part of Anishinaabe culture, it is no wonder that during the negotiations of several 19th century treaties, Anishinaabe wanted to guarantee the ability to fish for themselves and future generations. The leaders made sure to protect that the protection of Anishinaabe fishing was guaranteed in the treaties. From 1836 to 1854, 4 land cessation treaties were signed between the United States government and the Ojibwa tribes living in a vast area around Lake Superior, which later became the states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. In return for their land, the Ojibwa reserved the right to hunt, fish, and gather throughout the ceded territory, including Lake Superior. As long as resources were plentiful, this reservation of rights seems to have been of little concern. But as fish and wildlife populations began to decline due to increasing exploitation and habitat destruction, the states began to develop regulatory programs and to enforce their laws on the Ojibwa. Nevertheless, survival and tradition led tribal members to continue to hunt, gather, and fish, either on reservation lands or off the reservation, where they were subject to arrest by state wardens. And so only a few decades after the last treaty was signed, the Ojibwa began to be denied their treaty-reserved rights. Starting in the 1970s and continuing through today, tribal members and tribal governments began challenging the authority of the states to apply their resource regulations against tribal members hunting on ceded lands and fishing in ceded waters, both inland and on Lake Superior. Two key court decisions in Lake Superior, where treaty reserved rights of the Ojibwa were reaffirmed, were the 1971 Michigan John Roe decision and the 1972 Wisconsin Gurno decision. So now I would like to share a video produced by Glyphwick on the 1972 Gurno decision, titled Lifting Nets.
I really don't have a lot of memories. I was only 9 years old at the time. It wasn't until later in my life I finally learned the significance of the Gurno decision. There was a question whether we were able to fish in Lake Superior according to the treaty. They were saying that we had to fish inland. If you look at Red Cliff, we have maybe one river and a couple little streams. How would we subsist on something like that? You have to go back to how did the people that negotiated the treaty, what was the intent, and that was, of course, to fish in Lake Superior. My father's name was on the decision itself, but it involved 7 other people.
I had just gotten out of the military service. I'd been joining the plan and maybe kind of also looking for work, but if you look back and reflect back to that time period of 1969, what was happening was that Indian men, particularly, being arrested for hunting, fishing, and gathering. I mean, there was story after story, all the way back to Indian country, where that was happening. It just wasn't being arrested. It was fine. You had to go to jail. Your whole family probably didn't eat. Hunting, fishing, and gathering has always been something that we did. And so what else could you do? How long can this go on? Take it to the next level and say, well, there are treaty rights. We do have them protected or we don't. And let's get it into the court system. Let them decide. And so we said, well, let's do a test case. Let's set a gill net and do a test for the fishing. Then we began to get more serious about planning it out, trying to figure out who would be wanting or willing to do this. Our thoughts then was to say, well, let's go ahead and let the newspapers know, the Ashland Daily Press, the Duluth News Tribune, Channel 3, 6, and 10, let them all know, in fact, even let the game wardens know that this is what we're going to do on such and such a time and date, that's what we're going to do. So we went down, we set our net off in the campground. At 9 or 10 o'clock the next morning, people began to gather at the land, even commercial fishermen that were non-Indian from Bayfield, lots of tribal members and elders. We got out there in the water and we started to lift. Uncle Butts Peterson, Dick Gurno, and Philip Gordon were in one boat. Alan Bear and Roger Badley and myself were in another boat. And so as we began to go out and lift, the game wardens were then already coming toward us over from the Royce Point area. I said, well, here they come now. And Philip Gordon, he lifted, and the first big thing that came out was a big sucker. And when he held it up, everybody was cheering all over, and just yelling and screaming. Oh my goodness. The game wardens were right there by us with a loudspeaker. It says, you guys, you're arrested. And so we come on board, and there were cheers from the shoreline and saying, well, where are they taking you? Said, well, we're going to Washington, Bayfield County, we're going to be charged. However long it took to go through the court system until a final result was that it is a treaty protected right, and the decision was final. Hunting and fishing, gathering, treaty protected.
really important because fishing has gone on in Superior since, I think, the 16th or 17th century with migration of the tribes we all ended up in the point. It was just part of our whole life. I just hope that we're able to continue that tradition. I don't think it'll ever die out, I don't.
Thank you. With that, I'll take questions.